So I want to take a moment and introduce you to this amazing man, super duper handsome, nice butt, but you can't see it. It's only for me to look at. Mr. Jackie O'Quinn.
Okay, now I'm going to turn red on camera. And I want to introduce you to this incredibly talented, good-looking woman, Mrs. Carmen O'Quinn. So we're here tonight because we want to share something with you. We have been invited on a journey to be able to impact 100 million lives around the world. And if that sounds like a big number, it is. But this journey actually all started many, many years ago. It was in the 90s, around the time of the Gulf War, and it started with a homeless woman who was a cocktail waitress living out of her car. She was broke, destitute, $2.03 to her name. Husband had left her, and she was literally left homeless living out of her car. And all starting from a payphone booth in the trunk of her car, she got this crazy idea to be able to launch a business with nothing but raw ambition, very little skill, but a ton of determination to be able to make something happen in her life. She eventually became a millionaire. She started a personal development company called Destiny Global, and today, this company has impacted lives all over the world. Hundreds of thousands of people have had their life impacted because of the training that has been taught. You see, this woman believed, Mrs. Danny Johnson, she believed that there are people out there like her who have ambition, who've maybe been dealt a bad hand in life, but they really had a strong desire to be able to improve the circumstances in their life. They just didn't know how. And you see, she knew that if you just gave people a roadmap, the right type of people, the right person at the right time would take that roadmap, run with it, and be able to transform their life.
And I feel like that's our story because we were a part of that 100 million. We were a part of that. In fact, this guy right here, so we both grew up, would you say poor? Or would you say po?
No, we were poor.
Well, because, you know, sometimes you leave the R off. That's really po.
My mom's going to watch this. She'll tell you we were just poor.
So we both grew up poor. But we both had this, like, really, we wanted to be something. We didn't know what. You know, we were both entrepreneurs. We both had people in our lives that had owned businesses, that drove nice cars, that lived in nice houses.
I didn't have anybody in my life that I knew of in my family driving nice cars or having nice
movies.
Houses. You said we knew people. I didn't know nobody in my family. I'm certain I had them. I went to some family reunions one time. I found out somebody was a judge in my family, and I thought that was like a big deal, but I didn't actually know him.
You watched Pretty Woman. You saw the guy in the nice car.
You said we knew them. I did not know them.
Anyway, we knew people. I had witnessed people. I may not have known them, but it might have been through a movie screen or something. That made a lot of money and stayed in nice, you know, hotels and things like that. And I saw that life, and it was drastically different than, you know, the double wide trailer I grew up in. And so I can remember, like, when we first met, in fact, one of the things that we talked about when we first met was like what we were going to become and where we were going to live and the types of vacations we were going to go on. And I can remember him describing a watch that he wanted. Do you remember that?
Yeah, totally.
And so, again, but we're both young, we're both poor. And so he winds up going to nursing.
Well, back then, technically, I was like a broke college student.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to be broke if you're in college, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, that's like you're expected to be broke.
Yeah, totally.
So we're both broke college students, and he's going to school to be an RN. I'm going to school to be a psychiatrist, a child psychiatrist. Anyway, long story short, he wound up starting, how many home-based businesses did you start?
Well, I started a lot. I mean, if you go all the way back to selling lemonade as a kid, me and the neighborhood kids were all, you know, mowing grass, pushing the lawnmower, some guy carrying a gas can, negotiating the price, you know. Yeah, so it was a lot. You know, ambition is something, I think all of us are born with some sort of ambition. Even if it's not for entrepreneurship or being able to make more money, most of us, there's a spark in most of us that we want to improve our life in some way, right? So for me, though, in the beginning, I didn't know, like, growing up the way that I did, you know, hearing people like my grandfather, who was very impactful, you know, he made good money as an employee. You know, he had good jobs. He was a truck driver, which was a really good job when I was a kid. But he spent it or blew it all. And so I used to hear him talk about regret. And I just knew I didn't want to have regret in my life. Let's go here. What was the defining moment that you decided? Do you have a moment that you just knew that you were either going to achieve something or look for something more? Like, where was that moment that, because we both became entrepreneurs, so what was that moment that you were like, I'm going to become an entrepreneur?
I was 16 years old and I was sitting in the neighbor town to my small town I grew up in. It was a little bigger than our one stoplight town. And I had been invited through my school onto like a board. And I was like the honorary kid who somehow got lucky enough to sit in. And all of the, the counties around us, it was all the entrepreneurs from the town. It was the mayors. It was the person who owned the hospital, the person who owned the funeral homes. And so it was like, imagine 20 to 30 businessmen and women who would get together and they would talk about growing business. They would talk about lives and vacations and this new car they bought and sending their kids to college and their trip to Greece. And, here I am, the kid who's lucky enough to be sitting here living in a double wide trailer at the time. And I'm literally looking around at this table. They all took turns buying my lunch. And I just remember thinking, wow, I want to be like them. Any one of them. Like, I didn't even care which one it was. It was like any one of them. But it was in that moment that in my mind, I had witnessed success in person, not just on the movie screen, not just, far off, but it was actually up close and personal. So that was really the moment where I was like, no, I want to do what they do. What about you?
So I always knew that I always was looking for a way to be able to make money. For me, I knew that making money was going to be able to allow me to live a different kind of life, and I wouldn't have been able to articulate it this way at the time, but I inherently somehow knew that money was a tool. But I didn't really think about how much money I needed to have or would want to make to be able to live the kind of life that I wanted to live until I was actually in college when it hit me. I was in nursing school at the time, and I remember I was living with this family. I had moved away from home for various reasons. I was sleeping on the couch of this family, the Palombos. They were incredible people. And I remember living there, and I wrecked my car. And I'm walking from nursing school, Wayne Community College, and I'm walking to their house. And as I'm walking, I'm thinking about when I get a car again, because I had wrecked my car. And I started thinking about, well, if you could have any car, like what would you want to have? And I remember at the time it was a Dodge Viper. But that wasn't crazy, because I just thought that it was a crazy car for me at the time.
Nice car.
Yeah. But it wasn't crazy because I thought if I planned properly at that point in my life, I just thought if I planned properly, then I could have it. And then I started thinking about, well, what would a Dodge Viper cost? Mm-hmm. And I remember, and I was probably 19 at the time, what kind of home did I want to live in? And at that time, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, probably 2-car garage home. How much was it going to cost? And when was I going to want to retire? And how much would I need to retire? And I just started thinking about these numbers, and I realized these are big numbers. And I knew what I was going to earn when I got out of nursing school. So I just started, when I knew what I was going to earn when I got out of nursing school, which was considered a good middle-class wage and a good job. In fact, where I come from, there are a lot of people who wanted to be nurses because that was considered really good money. And so I just realized, even with the nurse's salary as an RN, I was going to live paycheck to paycheck, and I was going to be in debt just to be able to make my monthly bills, just to be able to have, even without the Dodge Viper, just to be able to have a brand new car without having a payment for 8 years, and without having a 30-something year mortgage. I was never going to be able to retire. And the one thing that I really wanted to do was I wanted to have the ability to retire while I was young enough. My father passed away when he was 40. I wanted to know that I was going to be able to, I didn't want to have to work till 65. So in my mind, I wanted to have the ability to retire at 50. And so when I started doing the math, I just thought, I'm not going to ever be able to do this as being a typical wage earner. So that's the moment that I thought, okay, I'm going to get through nursing school and I'm going to become a nurse. But I'm going to look for what else is out there. What other options are out there for me? And I knew one of them might be business. And that was a defining moment for you. For me personally.
That's awesome.
So what was your...
I didn't know about the Dodge Viper.
Come on, you know about a Dodge Viper.
I knew you liked it. I didn't know that was like your first like muscle car.
It was like the first car like I thought I wanted.
It was a BA car. I get it.
Well, that year they were pretty BA. They became less BA later.
So like I can remember like, you know, after realizing that I wanted to be like these people, like I can even remember them going to conferences, and they would start going to conferences. They would talk about what they learned at these conferences. They would go to conferences together. And that was my first introduction to personal development.
I had no idea what personal development was. The first time I heard of it, I thought it was stupid. I thought, who needs to, just like go out there and do something. Like the idea that people needed to understand, gain skill set related to personal development. I was in business training and personal development for years before I came to terms with myself that I was actually in personal development. Like that sounded so highfalutin. Like poor people don't get personal development. You get jobs and you get paychecks. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a first world problem. I need personal development. Sorry.
Yes, we do. And so now I would like hear about them going out to these conferences. And I can remember in high school, I was so inspired by this board that I was on. Like I went and found like the personal development chick for kids. And I organized like a 3-county assembly. All the schools bust people into one central school. It's the first time it ever happened. I had to go in front of the school board and make a presentation to all the principals. But I knew that personal development was important. So after graduating high school, getting into college, I do remember I started reading like the Dale Carnegies, the Tom Hopkins, the Zig Ziglars. And I remember like, you know, I would tell him I'd be like, oh my gosh, have you heard about this book? It's like, no, I'm working.
Yeah, so for me, going into personal development for me happened on a need-to basis. So I read Zig Ziglar because I was trying to figure out how to start some sort of a business and I needed to understand sales. And I was like, oh, I literally went to the bookstore at the time, Books A Million, and I was like, oh, I want to know how to sell. And so I went to the sales section, found books, and I ended up on Zig Ziglar, for example. And so even when I went to my very first Steps to Success training event, I went to that training event because I had a certain set of skills. I'm thinking Liam Neeson had a very special set of skills that I did not have, but that I wanted. And I heard this woman who was homeless with $2.03 to her name, and she became a millionaire. And I remember, you know, I just thought to myself, if she could become a millionaire and within a couple of years, and she's willing to teach me what she knows, then I need to check this out. And I went, it was actually my brother who was like, hey, we should go to one of these training events. I was like, yeah, I know. So we went to that training event and I was blown away. That was the first time that I sat in an environment, and I actually don't know that I've sat in a better environment as far as what made First Step so incredible. The same thing that makes it incredible today. The same thing that's making it incredible June 16th, 17th.
July 16th, 17th, and 18th.
16th, 17th, and 18th. Yeah, you should be there. So the thing that makes it so incredible and that I learned all the way back then, 2005, September 2005, was that it was very applicable, intentional training. And I knew, after sitting to that training event that weekend, I knew that my life was radically different because the message was a message of impact. And it was skill development. I didn't know it was personal development. I just knew it was skill development.
Well, and that's where I was kind of going is, you know, early on in my entrepreneurial, my wantrepreneur career, where I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I really didn't know what to do, is a lot of the things a lot of the bunny trails I went down were kind of like the pie in the sky. They were inspiration, which, don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for inspiration. But so we meet, you know, we're dating at the time. I'm encouraging his like wantrepreneur dreams. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go to this conference in LA. I'll call you and let you know. I'm like, all right, you go. I've got important things to do. You know, at the time I had a business a new business. And so he calls me. Do you remember this?
Yeah. Just for the record, we were like, when we first started talking, we were in our early 20s.
Yeah.
And so this is like 3 or 4 years later at this point. I've actually started a business, right? No, I hadn't started. I had started it, but I hadn't done anything yet. This is my very first event. So I go to that event. I was thinking I was in Michigan. I go to that event, and I'm working as a nurse. I'm a nurse. I go to that event because I'm looking to start a business on the side. You know, the internet's still like a newer-ish thing. You know, as far as businesses online.
You just dated us.
Yeah, totally. It's true. But it was like a newer-ish thing. and I'm going to this event. I want to learn how to succeed. Her first steps to success. That sounds like my kind of event. Totally.
So he gets on lunch break, like the first day, and he calls me. And I'm like, I'm working. Remember how he talked about those people that are work? Now he's the one off chasing the LA dreams. I'm working. And do you remember what he said to me?
No, but you're going to tell us.
He's like, oh my gosh, you are losing so much money by not being here. I got to go. Bye. Click. And I'm sitting there and I'm very challenged. I'm motivated by a challenge, very much so. And I just remember thinking, I try to call him back.
Well, you have to understand too. At this point in time, she's working like 90-hour weeks. You know, she's always working. We were next door neighbors. If we weren't next door neighbors, we would not have seen each other during the week at all.
Yeah, 90 hours a week. I had gotten that business up to $720,000 a year, which for a young person in her young 20s, you know, I was like, yes, I'm doing awesome.
So imagine her boyfriend calling her, you know, who she thinks is just trying to start this little side business of some sort, probably. Calling her, being like, you're losing so much money.
Like, what? Like the cartoons with the steam coming out the ears and out the head. That was me in the moment. So then I have to wait hours to talk to him again. Long story short, the very next month, was it the next month?
No, it was not the next month. It was 4 or 5 months later.
In my mind, it was right away.
It was actually even more than that. It was May of the following year.
Who's keeping track? It was May of 2006. You shush. It's because it was winter in Michigan. I was supposed to go to one sooner and we got snowed out, but it happened to be May of 2006 and I joined him at an event. And it's been quite a journey since then.
Did I move to Michigan at that point in time?
Yeah, you were there. So I took that business. I took that business from $720,000 to $3.7 million in 18 months. Took my hours from 80 to 90 hours a week, like a workaholic, no vacation, no time off. It was not good. Down to 40 hours a week. You went from being a wantrepreneur.
No, understand from September, that month I had generated $15,000 with that home business. At the time, just to put it in perspective, at that time in 2005, working as an RN, you know, it took almost 6 months to earn that. So it was mind-numbing. Like I knew my life had radically changed forever. And a few months after that is when I eventually moved to Michigan.
No, you're leaving out the first sale you made after that event, what you did.
I don't know.
They want to know.
I don't know.
When you were in your office, in your single white trailer, you made the sale.
Oh, yeah.
He made his first sale coming out of that training.
So I'm living in this. Okay, so I told you I was living with the Palombos, right? So like they were relocating. My very first paycheck, I had to get a security deposit, get the lights turned on. I had one paycheck. Literally, I got the paycheck that day, moved out. You know, so I'm living in this single wide trailer. I don't even have fully furnished, right? It's taking time to get all this done. You know how it is, paycheck to paycheck. You're saving paycheck. Something comes up, you gotta,
Milk crates are furniture.
Rubbermaid totes. I didn't have a milk crate, but I had Rubbermaid totes that was a TV stand. Anyway, so I had this couch and that somebody had given me, and I just remember running around you would have thought that I had made $1 million, and it was just mind blowing. Because I had finally made, up until then I had made money, right?
So you remember Tom Cruise on Oprah?
The couch. Yeah.
He went out, he jumped on the couch up and down because he made his first sale coming out of that training. And prior to that, it was a goal, it was a dream that had cost him money. It hadn't made him anything yet.
No, the thing is, I was making money before then. I was making money in that business, but I hadn't been able to break through. I had made I got 1 or 2 clients over months, okay? Months. But I didn't have a system. I was winging it. It was sheer ambition. I was just pushing the boulder up the hill and I just kept pushing. Yeah, nobody was believing in me. I was telling people I was going to succeed and it seemed laughable. I had a charge nurse I worked with. I remember he told me, you're looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. You're just an idealist. So everybody's beating up on you every turn, right? And so after I go to that training event and I hear training that tells me not only can you succeed, not only is it possible, but here's how you have success. And I'm able to take tangible skills, go home immediately and get on the phone with clients and start getting results. In fact, the truth is I actually generated that $15,000 within 3 days. And it was earth shattering. And then she's like, so when you moving to Michigan?
Totally. I'm like, he's got money. Let me close that deal. He did move. We became neighbors. And so if you fast forward, like we both went on to make millions of dollars in our businesses. We've paid off over $300,000 in debt, including our mortgage. We're completely debt free.
Here's the question. On the way to success, as you're having success, what was one of the moments for you that you were like, see, the problem is we're thinking about success is a little bit. And so the challenge is there's a moment where you kind of think you've hit it and something happens different. Like what's one of those moments that you had that you were like, I think I kind of might have hit the big time.
This is so bad. This is so irresponsible, but I'm going to tell it. So we would get like cash deals that would come into our offices. We sold air filtration devices. And at the time I had one of like an Aztec. It was like an Aztec, and it was the first vehicle.
SUV.
It was an SUV. It was, who made that car?
Pontiac.
Pontiac did. And it was like the one where you could like, Rosie O'Donnell had it and the tent could come out the back and it had like a, so anyway, it was the first vehicle I ever paid cash for. And in the middle of it, it was like this console that would come out as a cooler. Well, underneath it was like this secret department. So whenever we would get cash deals, I would just take the cash and throw it down there. And, you know, we'd write it in the books, throw it down there, and that's kind of where it would sit, right? And I was going to go to the bank and deposit it. Well, I can remember the day where I forgot my wallet at home. And I was at a grocery store and I had to run out to my car. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have cash in the middle of my car. And I literally opened that up and it was like a cooler full of cash. And I remember looking at it going, I have a cooler full of cash. And all of a sudden it just hit me that, wow, like this is crazy. Like that was really the moment where I stopped and thought, you've made it. Like, not that I had hit all my dreams or done everything I wanted to do in life, but it was the moment where I knew I had gotten past that struggle. Yeah. I had all this cash that I forgot I had and didn't even need and just was sitting there accumulating. And it was just like, wow. Yeah. Kind of crazy. I would never advise doing that today, but you know, my young, naive 20-some-year-old self did it, thinking nothing wrong with it. Thank God nobody ever robbed my car. They would have been like the happiest robber in the world. Anyway, what about you?
So as I asked that question, I was like, well, what would be my moment? Because everybody has moments. There were several. I think one of them, okay, so there was probably two. There was once where I was called into work and people, they were paying bonuses to work overtime at the time because there was a nursing shortage. There's always a nursing shortage. And they were paying bonuses to come in. And I didn't really want to come in, but I had committed to it. And I remember feeling a little bit guilty because a lot of people wanted that overtime. They wanted that bonus money. But the thought was, I don't need to be here. I don't have to be here. Like, based on this takes me away from my business at home, my online business. So like, I'm actually, it's almost costing me money to be here. So that's when I knew that I was an employee at that point. I was a nurse at that point because I really wanted to be. That was one. The second one's more fun.
That's awesome.
It's probably the one where you'll remember this. I went into your office to see you. I had my first like $20,000 day. I just remember going to your office and I was like, for me, it was surreal. Like, I just had 20,000. Now, mind you, 20,000, like 18 or whatever. It was like 18 something thousand dollars in profit. And I just remember going into your office, and I don't know, I was what, 26
in a day,
or 7?
in the one day.
Yeah, 6 or 7. And I was like, hi. You were like, hi. I was like, so I just made like $20,000. And you were like, you did what? And I didn't even hit me until I saw your reaction. You were like, you did what? And I was like $20,000. And one of your managers walked in and shut the door. And you were like, do you know he just made $20,000? And I'm thinking, you don't just tell people that, you know? But it just hit me like it was so surreal. Like the rest of the day was like a fog. Like that's nuts. And we're talking like new revenue. Like I didn't have that revenue that morning before 1 o'clock, 1:30 that day.
Money in the account.
Yeah. So that was a real crazy.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that was crazy the first time that happened.
Well, and so life obviously went on, and we wound up getting married because we were not married at that point. We knew each other for a long time.
I only have 2 regrets in life, but one of them was I took way too long to marry this amazing woman.
So we get married, we have 3 babies, business is going well, but like any real life story, because let's be honest, this is real life. We live on this thing called planet Earth. And I'm married to another
human
being. And like anybody else's life, there's struggles. There's roadblocks that you hit. I mean, our first year of marriage, we were knocking on divorce's doorstep. I mean, it was a miracle that we got married, and we got married because of, listen, our life is a testimonial of overcoming, of getting beyond the lemons that life throws at you. But I know that we would both agree, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know for a fact that we have been equipped because we were a part of that training system for more than 15 years.
Yeah, no question. No question. No question. Listen, I want to run with this theme for a moment. See, a lot of people are under this illusion that you're going to somehow have success and then it's going to be gravy after that. But the reality is that success requires growth. So even though, yes, we had difficult times in marriage, and you know what? We've also had difficult times as parents. I believe that we both worked really hard to stay in agreement and do a great job raising our kids. And I thank God every single day for the opportunity that He's entrusted us with those 3 little ones. But you know what? There are hard days and there are good days, but we're more equipped than ever to overcome the challenges that life throws at us as a couple. And that's one, even during our dark days in our marriage, when we came together, it was like, but you know what? We can do this. We can get through this, and we will do it together. And it's because we both knew that we were equipped. We understood our hearts. We understood each other. We had communication skills that made a difference. We had a level of discernment because of the skills that we've developed all these years. Businesses change. Businesses grow. Businesses have transitions. Profitable businesses. You're talking about being able to have a successful business and a financially successful life all through a pandemic, all through disasters in life, and still being able to move forward and having a confidence every single day that when you have a challenge, it's just a chance to grow. It's a chance to get better. And it's a chance to inspire somebody else, because I recently heard every mess is a message, but it can't be a message unless you're equipped. Yeah. Unless you're equipped to deal with the mess. So listen, I don't know where you're at. Maybe you have some messes in your life, but we're on a journey right now. That woman that had that vision early on, 100 million lives by 2035. We were just 2 of those lives. 100 million lives by 2035. Mrs. Danny Johnson has since retired. And she's turned her company over to a capable man, Mr. Ken Brown. This is a man that has business experience, who has literally worked with some of the business titans of America. And he's organized a well-oiled machine that's going to be able to continue to deliver this training for the next several decades, even beyond him. But he's honed in on a mission of reaching 100 million lives by 2035. And we've been fortunate enough to be invited to be a part of this.
Yeah. And so a month and a half ago, when Danny took the stage for the last time and said, I'm going to go enjoy, and I'm passing the baton on to people that have proven, been a part of this system, that have results in these areas. And so in July in Orlando, Florida, we want to personally invite you to join myself, this guy, Jackie, and Mr. Ken Brown, where the 3 of us will be training for 3 days from stage. Not how to be perfect, but how to
be better.
Be better. Not how to be bulletproof.
Resilient.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, I promise you, the mantle that has been placed on us 3, the burden to move forward with this message and this training, we don't take it lightly.
No.
I promise you that I remember in 2005 where I was at. And I know that some of you are going to be sitting right there, exactly where I was at, hungry, determined. Enough is enough. You're ready for that next step in your life. And I promise you that I'm going to give it all I've got. And I promise you, Carmen O'Quinn is going to give it all she has. We're going to pour into you with every equipping skill set that we have, teaching the exact same skills that we've used to raise up a family, to live a life that is far more successful than we started out with. Mr. Ken Brown is determined to be able to pour into you the same equipping skill sets that is transforming his life. Because guess what? Mrs. Danny Johnson did something that was extraordinary. She promoted from within. Because myself, Mrs. Carmen O'Quinn, Mr. Ken Brown, have all three of us are one of those 100 million lives. So will you join us?
Next month on this mission to not only transform your own life, but transform your families, our communities. But to transform a community, we first have to be transformed. To be able to transform others, we have to transform ourselves first. And so the three of us will be there in Orlando, Florida. I hope you're there with us.
You can't be effective until you're empowered. You were supposed to live a life better than you're living now. A life with purpose and on purpose.
Yeah.
Join us in Orlando.
We'll see you there. Oh, by the way, there's a barbecue. I mean, in case you're just a foodie, I just thought I'd throw that in there. There's a barbecue.
You can't miss the barbecue.
So don't miss the barbecue. Don't miss all the cool things that are going to be happening. So go down below. I will link it down below. First steps to success. Click add to cart, get your ticket, and we will see you in Orlando.